Upfront Books presents Rising Sun, Falling Skies, the disastrous Java Sea campaign of World War II, written by Jeffrey Cox and narrated by Theodore O'Brien. With your purchase of this audiobook, you have received access to a PDF containing a list of references spanning across various media, along with a set of photos that will allow you to get the most out of your listening experience. It can be found at upfrontbooks.com/rising. Prologue. Few events have ever shaken a country or become part of the national consciousness in the way that the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor affected the United States. Even today, more than 7 decades after that fateful Sunday, almost every American knows the date December 7th, 1941. Everyone knows what happened on that date, the start of World War II in the Pacific. It is common knowledge. It is also wrong. For World War II in the Pacific did not begin at 7:55 a.m. local time on December 7, 1941, with the massive surprise attack on the base of the United States Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor, an attack that sank virtually all the fleet's battleships and left it, in the word of one official message, immobilized and unable to help fight against the Japanese hell that was about to descend on Southeast Asia. By 7:55 a.m. on December 7th, World War II in the Pacific had been in progress for more than 8 hours. The first act of war was not nearly as spectacular as Pearl Harbor, but it was just as dramatic and deadly. It took place over the South China Sea, off the coast of what is now Cambodia. There, an Australian pilot by the name of Patrick Bedell and his flight crew, operating a British Royal Air Force Consolidated PBY Catalina flying boat out of Singapore, was intercepted by Japanese fighters. Shot down in an exploding fireball, Bedell and his flight crew were killed, their bodies never found. Their crime? They had gotten too close to the Japanese invasion fleet destined for British Malaya, now called Malaysia. While Pearl Harbor attracted all the headlines, for obvious reasons, the deaths of Patrick Bedell and his crew were actually the more significant incident. For Pearl Harbor was only the means to an end. Bedell and his crew were standing in the way of the ultimate goal, the conquest of tin and rubber-filled Malaya with its fortress of Singapore and the oil-rich islands around the Java Sea, Borneo, Sumatra, and Java. In the time immediately after Pearl Harbor, the war in the Pacific became something of a blur as the Japanese juggernaut quickly racked up conquest after conquest. Lost in that blur were the efforts of Patrick Bedell and small groups of British, Australians, Americans, and Dutch, whom the attack on Pearl Harbor had left largely isolated in the Far East to fight the Japanese advance alone. The back of their resistance would be broken by their defeat at the hands of the Japanese at the Battle of the Java Sea. But by then, the Java Sea campaign, as the U.S. Navy would later call it, was largely decided. It had long since stopped being a test of arms and had become a test of character. These Allied troops were thrown together by circumstances cut off from reinforcement, or in many cases, retreat. Operating with old, obsolete equipment and dwindling supplies, unable to get any rest, and perhaps the most daunting feature of this campaign, enduring Japanese air attacks day after day after day. With few notable exceptions, their goal was not to win. That was impossible. But to delay the Japanese. Facing a relentless and thoroughly vicious enemy, these Americans, British, Dutch, and Australians responded not by running or surrendering, but by defiantly holding on, trying to buy weeks, days, hours. They were the modern 300 Spartans of Leonidas, a thin line of defenders sent forward to delay a thoroughly alien invader until a better line of defense and offense could be established. But the knowledge that they were alone, cut off, outnumbered, outgunned, would take its toll. The certainty that every day with the rising sun would come Japanese bombs falling from the sky would eventually take its toll. This is evident from the titles of some of the relatively few books written about parts of this campaign. The fleet
Sample complete. Ready to continue?